for them to have changed their tune. You know, Fnatic come back in the spring split, but for now, Koi fans through and through it.
You just got
to call him out like that.
You're okay, yeah, okay, fair enough, Medic, fair enough.
Giga Chad, Giga Medic.
Anyway, Silas and Kaylin taken away by G2. There's the Elise that you were talking about. Ash, obviously, possibility. There's the Draven, and Ash finally taken away by Koi. So lots of AD carries getting taken out of the champion contention. G2 with first pick have a lot of different options.
I was going to say Lucian was an option, but it looks like the Maokai is the priority for the time being. We know how strong the champion is. Just very well rounded in terms of engage, good scaling, good damage, and also gives you flexibility in the mid lane in terms of what AD champions. Tristana we have seen come out from Caps before. Jace is also a very viable option here for G2.
Classic G2 here would slam double solo lanes, wouldn't they? I think Jace, yeah, like I said, would be amazing. Just go for something along those lines, perhaps like a Jax early rotation too. Just make sure you secure full top side. Make sure the top side is happy. They could also just pivot and go bot lane here. Zeri Lulu wouldn't be too bad. Expecting Koi to pick up Sejuani on 3, Vi on 3, depending on what G2 pick up. If they pick up Zeri, likely a Vi. If they go full top side, likely a Sejuani.
Instead of looking towards the top side, though, they go down towards support. Give Mickey his Nautilus, something he's shown just how good he can be. Xayah gives you a bit of protection, especially from something like that Vi in the jungle.
Varus would also be a pretty good one.
For sure,
Varus, Nautilus, lots of kill pressure down there. I think we saw Astralis run it yesterday. But they could also just leave AD for now. They have so many options. I think G2, the thing is when you have players that are so flexible and can play kind of anything, you can see them debating and discussing what they want to do, because Jace here would be, Jace here would be amazing. Just drop AD. I think it's just worth it.
You can also flex the Jace if you want to. You can go both mid and top. Our current expectations is it will be Caps on the Jace in the mid lane. But as you rightly said, given they have so much versatility in the AD carry role, they can do kind of whatever they want. Malrang now, the question is what will he choose to go for? Sejuani is often the answer into the Maokai. Have those two team fighting junglers, a little bit more durable, a little bit more of a frontline ways to kick off those fights. But we know that Koi can be a little bit unconventional. Perhaps they want to get their mid lane in for last, and it looks like that won't be the case as Malrang will lock in his jungle. Now we look at some of the things that can be removed. Some of the AD carries are the expected bans that we're likely to see from Koi now.
Yeah, I think Varus would make a lot of sense. Looking at Jace and Maokai, that's a lot of poke. AP Maokai likely to be the only AP on the team. I want to take away as much poke potential as they have. Varus slots in really well there. Zeri, just another powerful champion on the patch. You talked about the Xayah. I think Kai'Sa is something I'd be concerned about.
I was thinking about it as well, yeah.
Because Kai'Sa's dive potential, handsome as Kai'Sa last weekend, was really, really good, and just has really good percent damage to shred through things like the Sejuani.
Instead, they go for the Kalista, trying to remove some of the power that G2 have in that 2v2 in the bottom lane. Lucian Nami very strong when it comes to those all-out duels, but something like a Kalista Nautilus can match up to them in the early game and try and get a bit of a lead. So take away the Kalista. G2 here likely to look towards some mid lane bans. The Azir, of course, one of Larsen's premier picks. G2 don't want him getting his hands on the Emperor.
I wonder if Renekton is just a pick here for Koi. Something like Renekton or Gnar on 4, be really safe, see where the Jace is going, and then decide what to do with mid. Unless they want to go for some kind of mage. I think Victor has been cropping up a lot in the LCK and the LPL as the blind pick go-to mid laner, but it hasn't found much success. And I think with champions like Sejuani, you really want Sylas or Akali on your team, something that can help with that passive.
Certainly the case, but we also know that Larsen, very well known for his mages. Victor, Orianna, Azir, all very comfortable champions for him. I think the Sylas ban, if we go back from G2, makes a lot of sense. They knew that they wanted to prioritize the Maokai by locking in the Maokai. The expected response, especially from Malrang, was that Sejuani, and then by denying the Sylas, which is often Larsen's go-to. Good prep and good readiness there for G2, because it does kind of bring into question what will they pair up with the Malrang's Sejuani, and what can kind of facilitate this Lucian as well. Just going through a couple of options right now.
I think they're teasing them. They know what they want to play. Samira Kai'Sa is what he's saying here. Come to Hansama. Tristana, what do you want to play? Is Larsen going to go for Tristana mid here? I'd be a bit surprised.
But no, it's the Victor. You talked about
what we expected,
the safety blind pick Victor there. Can still go towards that Renekton up towards the top side if you want to try and get a bit of a melee combo with the Sejuani.
So, yeah, no, I was just going to say, how frisky does Hands-On get with this? Because Samira Kai'Sa would be great.
He's looking very frisky right now.
Trimmy putting his thumbs up right now.
He's teasing each other from across the stage, taunting one another.
And of course, Hansama and Jimmy had history together. You know, they played together for a little while, so Jimmy will have Zri, but instead, MF going to be the lock-in here. Good poke, good harass in the lane as well.
A lot of teamfight power coming out from G2 right now. And as you said, a lot of poke, so they've got a little bit more AP damage coming out from the top side of the map.
It's so good here, Aatrox, I'm telling you. double melee topside tanks with a tank support as well. Aatrox can get a lot of work done, so they've just blind picked the Gragas. We'll see what build Broken Blade goes for, likely tank-ish, but it helps the split damage from your team. Sion the hover for now, but yeah, Koi's team comp is just so teamfight heavy.
I can't remember the last time I was sad not to see an Aatrox locked in, but I would have loved an Aatrox being locked in here. Nah, perhaps a little bit more safe up towards the top side. Does still work well with the Sejuani if you can start to harass down that Gragas, but Gragas very difficult to actually get damage on in the early game.
I feel like that game one, everything has kind of gone as expected in terms of what these teams have drafted. Koi, a very traditional composition, scaling mid laner, a very aggressive bot side of the map, a lane that they often like to play through, and Jigenda kind of just doing what he needs for the team. They wanted a little bit more team fighting power. The Gnar gives you presence in lane and also scales pretty well in terms of the value that it can offer to team fights. Whereas G2, while they do have a lot of team fighting themselves, again, they have a lot more agency to roam around the map with the Jason mid lane. Caps can get unlocked early on in the laning phase. I expect Yike to be aggressive, ideally looking around bot side of the map, maybe even mid, but I expect all of the action to be happening in the bot lane as Hans Summer and Comp go toe-to-toe.
Yeah, it's likely top lane will be in isolation this game, as it always normally is, unless you have explosive champs, ignites taken, or any kind of Elise that can threaten those dives. We'll see how bot push goes though, because I think that yesterday in the Nautilus lanes, the Nautilus would force level 1 really hard to make sure they could get the push to help jungle, and then the Maokai or the jungler in that case can start bot side and invade and start skirmishes with the level 2 melee support, because then you can really start to pressure the map.
So close for that fan. Samira was hovered for a while, wasn't quite locked in, but G2 and Koi about to take to the Rift. That bot lane, a key point of focus for us through this game. I believe that's Caps' dad and Dylan Falco's dad together. We'll see if they perform well coming into our first game of the LEC Winter Playoffs.
This crowd cracks me up. There was
So
one
the
side,
Fnatic fans started chanting Fnatic,
yeah.
and then the other side of the crowd goes, "Where is Fnatic?"
Nothing special, they lose every week, guys. Okay.
You gotta love it.
What?
Oh man,
The fans are not happy with you right
the
now.
G2 ones are. I can see them.
Well, onto the rift we go. Both junglers on the top side of the map right now. No extra pressure down the bottom lane. We have seen like 5-man groups down in bot lane to try and get early push, early prio. There is a ward from G2, but nothing too adventurous happening from either of these squads.
So, given that the other game looks like it's going to be pretty stock standard, unless Koi actually could go for a bit of a delayed invade here.
I think it's just about denying any ward in that pixel bush.
Fair. But I wanted to talk about Koi's early game, because something that we've been very impressed with is their evolution from the best of ones into the best of threes, and how convincing and dominant that they have looked. Because there were a lot of question marks around Koi and their regular season performance. Where is Koi? Usually when they were Rogue, we expected them to be the regular season kings, consistently placing in the top 2 positions, but the early games didn't look consistent. The team was really struggling. Then the moment they came into the best of threes, they yet to lose a game. The early game has been consistently dominant, and honestly, they felt largely untested leading up to this point.
Night and day, absolute night and day from Koi. And this is the team we saw win a championship last year in these last few best-of series. But here's the force from the Nautilus. Try and get the Lucian as low HP as possible. Make sure that you can threaten dives on bot side. And you can see Yike's already going to finish up on his Krugs, go towards red, and then he'll likely invade Malrang's jungle. So Malrang actually responding really well, knowing that that'll be his pathing. He skipped his topside camps, did red, went into blue, will take Gromp, nothing for Yike to take.
That battle between the junglers is one we've got to keep our eyes on throughout the course of this series. Mickey looking for another hook, can't quite land it. Early trades, good for Hans Samo and Mickey. You can see triple potion longsword for Hans, so he's going to be able to regenerate some of that health. But obviously Nami, when she gets a couple of levels, can just continue to push out that healing onto Comp with the ebb and flow. And then we'll see if Comp and Trimby can answer back, as they lost the early push for level 2.
So Yike's in their jungle now, threatening a dive. He was on a ward though, so I think Malrang is ready to cover. G2 classic here. Stack up waves bot, look for the dive. Yike thinks something's up though. They've leveled over to level 2. The wave isn't in range of crashing just yet, so maybe they're calling the play off. Malrang's just hiding in the shadows, waiting to see what happens.
Well, I wonder if Malrang was... Oh no, that ward did end up coming out afterwards, wasn't it? Because Malrang put himself behind the wall, kind of shadowing in the lane so that he wouldn't be spotted. But now he has his eyes on mid. Caps is very low. Yike is in a position to cover, but a flash Q from Malrang could be all it takes.
How long is that Q from coming off cooldown? He used it to get into this bush. Knows there's no warden with Caps going forward, even though Larsson's low. There's nowhere for Caps to go. Does still have the flash, will hold on to it. Marang flash follows though. Needs a slow here. One more auto would be enough. Permafrost. And down to an icy tomb for Caps.
He always does it, man. Malrang always does it. Level 3, he will get a kill. And it was just a smart pathing, right? Covers the bot dive, runs towards mid, Qs over the wall in case there's any wards in river, and waits patiently to find his targets.
You know, I seem to recall this exact same thing happening the last time the G2 and Koi met, and it was Caps. I remember listening to the voice comms afterwards saying, thought I could get a solo kill, instead I just got ganked.
Yeah. I also remember, I think it was Fnatic in the playoffs last year up against Rogue, where I believe it was Razork who just flashed over the wall on Xin Zhao and sat in that bush.
Yep.
And then looked for a very similar gank. Junglers love jumping over that wall. Mickey, not going to land the hook onto Comp.
Hansama and Mickey have been able to neutralize Comp and Trimby a little bit in the early game. I think Lucian Nami very strong as you get your first item, even into mid-game, can be very powerful. Just dash forward, rapid fire cannon, land a couple of autos, and it becomes very tricky to deal with him. But for the moment, this MF Nautilus seems to be having a handle on the situation. Malrang has a handle on the rest of the map as Caps, with no flash, could get caught out a little bit here.
Important to note, he's running Electrocute, not Phase Rush, so once he goes in for that trade, he's not coming out if he goes into Hammer form.
The damage that he had onto Larsson was pretty good, but of course, Victor deceptively tanky in the early laning phase, especially thanks to the shield you get on your Q.
Malrang wins those.
Yeah, he does with the Permafrost. That's a huge amount of damage down onto Yike. The sapling will chase Malrang away. He can come back, clear out this ward, but Yike is only at 200 HP. Gravity Well landing onto Caps here in the mid lane as he tries to get an Electrocute proc off, but Siphon Power gives Larsson the shield, and overall, mid jungle very much in favor of Koi so far.
Not a major gold advantage for the time being, but Koi will be happy with it nonetheless. Comp is a little bit low, but Malrang is looking. Looks like he won't really be able to convert that into much. I think his priority here is to just make sure that this wave gets pushed underneath the tower so that the Koi bot lane can look to get a reset off. The only thing they have to be concerned about is G2 setting up a freeze.
Oh, constantly fishing for those hooks there, Mickey. He knows he can get a summoner out of Comp if he lands it. Managed to trade the Ignite for Cleanse earlier on.
Well, Hansama's already got a cheetah recall or some sort of recall off in this bottom lane. With the strut on the MF, you can get back to the lane so much quicker. You can see Comp only sitting on the Doran's blade, whereas this double longsword dagger as Caps caught out again in the mid lane. Chaos Storm coming down. Caps, you've got nowhere to go, and we will just be chipped away. The death rate from Larsson is the second kill of the game for Koi.
What is going on? How long has Malrang been around mid or bot? It's 6 minutes into the game. He's based once. He's done, what, 6 camps, and he's just been hovering around this river the entirety of the game. How can G2's mid or bot ever push?
My expectation was we'd see a lot more action towards the bot side of the map, but Malrang, he saw his window. He was able to find an effective gank in mid. He found a repeat gank in mid as well. And remember, Malrang, he went from mid to bot back to mid. He hasn't really strayed very far from this area. Yike is now going to use this as an opportunity to get a bit of deep vision. See if he can spot anything out. He should, yeah, he's going to ping now that the Raptors are respawning. He expects the Sejuani to path towards there, and this gives information towards the MF that, hey, Hansama, jungler should be away from you for a little while.
And the beauty of all of this is that the Gnar is winning in isolation. You know, you can just leave Shigenda up there, he'll do his thing, he'll keep the push. If you ever want to move to Herald in the next minute, you're guaranteed top push till a couple more points get put in that queue from Broken Blade. It's a bit harder to push back into Shigenda. Mickey's also looking for similar sort of vision that you just touched on there, Vedius, on the bot side, but they will see Malrang going towards the red buff. See how close he is to level 6 once he finishes that one up. A couple more camps and he'll make it there.
Koi not a huge team when it comes towards the Heralds. Like to look towards first tower and first dragon a little bit more. G2 tend to prioritize the Herald on the top side of the map, but here's going to be a bit of a struggle for them because not really going to be able to get any pressure in this mid lane with Larsson already having a kill lead and Caps still being flashless for the next 30 seconds or so, maybe even a minute there on the timer. Bubble from Trimby, that was blind. Mickey goes back in with a hook, but Trimby's around the corner and we'll just get pulled into the wall.
Worth noting, small thing, but can have massive consequences is Victor, when you get those kills, oh, hang on a second.
For them fight in the mid lane, Caps able to go away from the permafrost. Yike was there to counter it. Yike stunned up for a second though, Malrang going back in still. It's the pain of having a ranged mid laner with a Sejuani. The permafrost was stacking up, but couldn't get 4 stacks in time, which means both Yike and Caps are able to walk away.
Bit unlucky for Koi there. Larsson's Chaos Storm, his ult was about 2 seconds off as Malrang queued onto Caps. The fight ended, the ult came up. That means that they are stronger in this 2v2 and they will start up this Herald. Shigenda has the top push and he will move straight after the wave is crashed. And yeah, Yike's just going to base, he's going to give it up.
Yeah, Larson, he should feel very strong right now, and you can see how he's kind of...
Bullet time coming out. Trimby has to flash away. Contacts a tower shot as well. They were just looking for the plate here. Trimby able to survive the culling coming back, and will keep Mickey and Hans Summer at bay.
Wow, we didn't quite catch the beginning of that fight, but Trimby looked like he was locked up underneath the tower. The G2 bot lane doing very devastating damage, but they should be able to heal that back up in no time. Comp very low on mana. They know where Malrang is. They should spot out Yike any second.
Looking at how low that tower is, I'm 99% sure they were greeding for a plate in the bottom lane. It was about one hit away from dying, and Trimby just overstepped a slight bit because of it. Depth charge going down onto Trimby. Comp, though, trading back onto Mickey, and with Malrang on his way, and Flash Glacial Prism a possibility. Mickey has Flash. Instead, he goes for Hans Summer. Only lands the slow Hans Summer. Only the exhaust on him. And because he doesn't have that escape tool, he will die in the bottom lane.
What an early game from Koi. They're controlling all the neutral objectives. They're controlling this entire bot side river, which is what we expected from draft. And they're playing beautifully around these lanes. Malrang especially, just making sure plays are happening. Doesn't even commit the flash ult there. He knows that the slow is enough to kill Hans with no flash, and they're going to start running away with it here. They've got the Herald, so the next play is theirs. Cap's even trying to contest this crab. He won't be able to get it. See if he can push Malrang back a bit, but that'll be all.
He's trying to make Malrang actually have to go back to base at some point in the game. Like puts out the sapling, couldn't find much more. This entire bot side is open for him, but instead decides not to go in. We'll see this hook once again for Mickey. Hans Summer was backing away with no mana as they went for this play.
Yep.
I think the idea is to just force the wave underneath the tower, so maybe no potential freeze could be set up as the next wave was coming in. They weren't expecting Malrang to collapse, which is a little bit of a surprise because they did actually spot him in vision in mid lane. It was a possibility, but regardless, G2 get punished.
Oh, Nature's Grasp being used here. Marin's going to try and block it for Larson. Does exactly that. Larson rooted underneath the tower, though, somehow surviving for an absolute Aeon, but in the end, Yike will get G2 on the board.
Looks like he got hit by one of the roots. He was just not straight behind Malrang there. I think he got tagged by...
The hitboxes are quite massive.
Yeah, they are, and I think that's what tagged him, rooted him. Malrang didn't have ult to stop any of the damage, so G2 will find a kill, and they will find this dragon. So they're getting themselves on the board here in this best-of-5 series.
Okay, so at least G2 are able to get something back after what has been a very convincing early game from Koi. Of course, they can't take a sigh of relief just yet, as you look at the bottom of your screen and you can see gold advantages being built up all across the board for Koi, which is why they currently sit at about a 1.4k gold lead. Both teams really, we're looking at the team fights later on into the game. Remember how much power this Maokai MF alone have in terms of the 5v5. Koi as well, they've had some pretty incredible team fights so far in the best of threes. But it's going to be interesting to see how these teams set up for the Dragons later on. But let's have a look back at this as an early indication of how these fights are likely to go.
Flash hook from Mickey goes on to Larson. Pops a W, try and get a little bit of peel for himself. Let's see the block here from Malrang. Oh, just like you said, massive hitbox. The left-hand one that I think just tagged him. And the root is what killed him. Malrang not able to answer. Larson a bit frustrated with that one. Knows the game was going so well, and now G2 found something. But they'll keep this setup. They'll keep Malrang around mid. They'll keep Trimby hovering. And I think they want to put the Herald down soon.
Yeah, you want to get it down, obviously, before that 14-minute mark, so the plates can fall, but also before it times out, which it's about a fifth of the way away from doing for Malrang. So maybe try and get Caps low so he can't defend it too effectively. Caps has been able to get a little bit back into the game, although still struggling in comparison to Larson. Trimby and Comp should be able to push out this bot wave. Mickey is hovering mid to try and answer anything that Malrang might be doing, puts a ward down, and Malrang being spotted retreats.
He was sitting in that bush for at least 30 to 40 seconds. Trimby left to go back to bot, and he was still there. Yeah, he's looking to place it down mid by the looks of it. He's not telling Larson to stop his base because he needs to place this down somewhere. I think it's going to have to be mid with the bot lane moving up. Sweeper on that ward, Crab's there, 3 plates left. I think they need to get this mid wave in. Escort their bot lane towards this tower to try to get as much damage on it as possible.
But they can also try and catch out Mickey as he tries to roam up, and that's exactly what they do. Bullet time coming out, Comp down to about half HP, but already Mickey has fallen. Caps coming in from the side. Mao's going to try and flash across this wall, but the bullets chase him home. Caps now in the midst of the camp. Storm will fall as well. Cannot survive Trimby's assault. Hans Summer trying to do what he can. Yike's going to join the party. They'll go for Larson. Hans Summer trying to get on the board again. A second for him in the fight. Koi forced to retreat down towards the bottom side. Can Trimby get away? Yike looked for the slow from the Nature's Grasp, but couldn't quite find it. The Bramble Smash, in fact, the slow from the Make It Rain won't be enough to keep Trimby in G2's grasp.
Ends up being a 2 for 2. Koi, they tried to punish Mickey's lack of flash early in the play, and they're able to find that initial pick, but Hans Summer with the confident collapse with Caps. You can see They're able to spot out Mickey here. They know he doesn't have flash after that earlier play onto Larson in mid. A lot of good damage comes down from Hansama, which really sets up for this re-engage. As G2 are creating this three-man collapse. The ultimate from Maokai is going to set them up. Good damage. An animation cancel there with Hansama's Q. Caps trades his life to set up for this ultimate and buy a little bit more time. And then Larson knows that he doesn't have the damage to shut down Hansama, especially with Yike offering support as well.
I think Trimby gets his passive off here on his E as Yike looks for the flash Q, so he just gets out of range. Nice play there by Koi to look for the pick on the rotation towards mid, knowing they were first. G2 able to respond a little bit. Yike looking for this blue buff. As the smite will pick it up, and that mid tower is left with one plate, so will be an easy pickup for Koi later on.
And this is kind of the difference between G2 and some of the other opponents Koi have faced during the group stage. When Koi had this early lead at the 12, 13 minute mark, they were able just to wrest the entirety of the game away from their opponents. Here, G2 always willing to fight them, keep them within about 1,000 gold. They're still in arrears, but G2 show that if they can find the right fights, they can really get back into these games.
Definitely can. That's the power of G2. Looking for a hook there. Mickey, Caps was right behind him, and this is Caps' Jace. Loves to roam around the map, look for these plays on sides, shut down anything he can do. And I think when he's in a game where his lane is not so much unplayable, but there's nothing to do in terms of action, he'll always sacrifice waves and move around.
The Herald was up, and I thought that Malrang had the perfect timing on it. Choosing not to go for it, but with the waves that they've stacked up in top, it could be an option for them. With Yike moving up into mid, maybe it's something that Koi is a little bit more hesitant to commit to. You can see the push in bot. Observers, if we could have a look at that bot lane tower very quickly. Mickey is now arriving to lane, but Koi getting very good damage onto this tower. Very close to securing it. Shouldn't be able to get it off the back of this wave. And now keep your eyes on mid lane once again. Caps looking for a roam alongside Yike, but they should be spotted out by that vision.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that Caps is the one that's able to roam around here first. I think it's because Malrang needed to clear out some camps, catch up, get his red base, come back out onto the map, and then the 2v2 can commence once again with 30 seconds on the Dragon. I don't really blame him for giving up river control. That's the next objective.
That's where G2 are investing their resources right now. First strike on the Maokai alongside that Demonic Embrace makes it very difficult for Koi to step in here. We often see a Sejuani get Warmog's second item after the Radiant Virtue just to be able to deal with the pesky saplings that can chip away at your health. Comp and Trimby looking for something, but no one from G2 oversteps, so they'll back away. They don't have vision on the river either. Now, Trimby stayed here.
What's going on here?
Comp's going to get hooked. Trimby looking for the tide away from behind. The next guy's coming out as well, but Trimby's on the wrong side of dodge. Bullet time into the roots. Lands his mark, and Hansama gets his third. Make it his fourth of the game. G2 on a tear.
Massive blunder by Koi's bot lane as well. What are they doing? Comp's just trying to run past the wave. Caps is in trouble. Malrang.
Caps still has the flash here. Glacial Prism's going to come out, and Caps flashes it. Saved it for all that time to dodge the ultimate from the Sejuani, and G2 get everything they were looking for.
As much as I want to say great from G2 for getting those 2 kills, I need to see that again because Comp is just running in a straight line to his tower with Trimby leaving him alone without a wave to block any of the hooks. And then Trimby flash ults, misses the Q, there's no follow-up, Comp's too far away. It was just so messy.
I'm trying to understand the logic here, but it was honestly a massive mistake on the side of Koi. The only good news for them is by forcing Caps back, it does make securing this Herald that much easier. And they will be able to, they'll likely use this top lane as mid is guaranteed to fall in the next few minutes. Bot lane is also very low. As I say that, there's that mid tower dropping. Larson and Malrang have found a lot of success in mid lane, but you kind of look at the scoreline. He was 1-0-1 at the beginning, now finds himself with 1-2-2, been caught out a couple times thanks to some great plays from Yike and the Maokai ultimate. But we're pretty much into a dead even game state. The difference is 2 dragons up for G2 and a bot lane tower and a 4-1 misfortune. Hansama is the carry that many in Europe fear when fed.
I mean, Bloodthirster Gale Force at 17 minutes in the game is something definitely to be feared, especially with the setup from the rest of his team. A good barrel, a good Nature's Grasp, a good depth charge just allows them to get so much CC.
So, there's no jungle around to bait. There's no TP, sorry, excuse me. And they're too far away to buff one another up. I mean, we started a little bit late on into that replay. I think
Yeah.
I want to see what Koi did with the bush control, but yeah, confusing.
Well, they just sat in it.
The thing I see is they sit in it, they expect Hansama to miss position, and they CC him and kill him while he's there. They don't expect Yike to come down and use the Nature's Grasp, and then you kill off this guy that's already got 2 kills and probably a shutdown at that point. I didn't see
it was
the
maybe
bounties,
a bait of some sort.
Yeah, maybe they were looking for something. Obviously it didn't work for them, and it gave Hansama even more gold to funnel into him. So now the MF is a mighty problem as Malrang looks for something up towards this top side. The sun's going to land there, but no follow-up CC onto Mickey.
Keep your eyes on the bot lane as well. You can see Mininar, Shigenda, Caps looking for the collapse. Broken Blade on his way as well, but Shigenda just going to jump away to safety. And you commented on it earlier, Kadril, something that we often see from Caps.
Were you about to say Pedro? Because I do that all the time.
It's because his name is Kadril. I was about to call him Caps.
Okay, yeah.
But, you know.
Easy mistake.
That would have been a colossal mistake.
Understandable mistake.
But
gameplay is similar.
It's funny because it was actually Kadril that, because he often goes so far. Hang on, Hook.
Onto Malrang. Depth charge onto
This is a
Larson as
massive
well.
fight for
TP's
G2.
coming in. Nature's Guard's coming in from the side as well. Malrang trying to get away. Trimby eats the rope, but look at the damage! It's a bullet time and it sends them all to hell. Larson has to flash away. Cap's still on the chase, but G2 just find everything in the top lane.
And you see the beauty of the MF in this comp when Maokai can get the ult onto multiple targets. The follow-up is always there, no matter how far away. Hands is just in range for the ultimate. Just blows them all up there. Koi was playing good in the early game, finding these small leads, but now G2 are starting to run away with the fights.
This is the problem when you have a fed MF, but honestly, it was set up nicely by Mickey, the follow-up from Yike, and this is why so many teams in Europe fear the Maokai. His ultimate is just so effective, whether it be for follow-up or whether it be to initiate a team fight. It just provides the perfect setup for an MF to deal ridiculous damage. G2, they walk away with 2 kills, they walk away with another tower, and they're looking to walk away with game 1.
And with 2 minutes left on the Ocean, Drake would be sole point for G2. You can see Malrang being chipped away there just by Yike, who, after a bit of a struggling start, is now 2-0-4 on this Maokai. I think seeing him develop across the course of this split has been very encouraging for the future, not only of EU junglers, but of G2 junglers. I think losing Jankos was a big loss for this team in the off-season, but now they found someone who is beginning to replace him, although doesn't obviously have the longevity of someone like Jankos.
I mean, G2's game plan coming into the year was to do something different, right? They wanted to take more gambles, take more risks, even bringing Mickey back onto the organization after what was a solid year the year before. Many people questioned, is this actually going to be a step up? You're taking a gamble on a young jungler. You're bringing in a Han Summer who didn't have a good season over in North America, a Mickey who sure had high moments on XL, but also had some inconsistencies, and so far the team has gelled incredibly well together. And what's crazy is often it's Caps who we'd be talking about at this point in a split, but everyone around him seems to be stepping up, that Caps can just continue to do his thing.
Yeah, faith in the bot lane of G2 and finding the young guns of Yike, and even Koi similarly in Shigenda, finding that aggressive style in these lanes or in the jungle that can bring a different style. Koi.
Nature's Guard comes in, there's the knockback as well with the cask instead. Malrang will fall, but Shigenda gets onto the backline, and now it's all on Koi. What can you do? A beautiful Gnar means the Caps will fall, but Koi still retreating underneath their tower. Han Summer falls away so low, one more auto would be enough, but they just can't get in range. G2 will walk away wounded, but they'll walk away alive.
Oh, so frustrating for Koi. It was such a bad fight. The turn was amazing from Shigenda, but they only get 1 kill. So close to getting hands, so close to getting Mickey as well. Maybe they can find this dragon. It's sole point for G2 if they can pick it up.
They don't have a jungler, Kadril. Malrang still sitting in the fountain for 4 more seconds.
Yeah, gonna back off. G2 are gonna work their way into this river. Caps doesn't have TP, but he'll have the home guards to get out of base and get here in time. G2 gonna stack up those 3 dragons. A little bit sketchy when the Gnar came in, but the engage initially was good.
I'm not sure if Han Summer even went back to base. I feel like he just lifestealed everything back.
He's got blood thirst.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The man just brought himself back to full HP, ready to fight again. And as you rightly said, frustration for Koi. What was a very good engage initially from G2, you see even more how well that this composition works together. Yike throws the ultimate out, and then the Gragas casket to create space between the front line and the back line sets up for a very easy pick. The Sejuani ultimate onto Han Summer means that he can't ult initially. This Mega Gnar was beautiful from Shigenda, but the kills just can't come through for Koi.
The Chaos Storm was on top of it as well, so Larson was getting so much damage down. Only finding Caps. G2 now posturing on this top side, want to take some control here, because obviously when they went towards Drake, Koi out of base went top side, I imagine, and put all these wards down. Shigenda, 1.3k gold up in isolation. See what damage he can do in team fights. Another one of those Gnars with Larson behind him, who I think he has a lot more damage now. Rabadon's picked up. If he had something like the Leandris there in that fight, it would have been disaster for G2, but he's playing the scaling route, playing the Run of Ages. And we'll see if it pays off in the long run.
And for G2, it's all about, can Han Summer get a bullet time down? Like, can he just be alive at the back of a fight? Everyone else engages. He stands there, opens up with a bullet time, and unlike Neo in the Matrix, Koi have been unable to dodge it the majority of this game. Koi now setting up around the Baron though. Shigenda no TP on him means that Koi are probably just playing for vision rather than for any actual take of this objective.
I'm reminded of Worlds 2021 Hans Summer when he was on Rogue World Championship. It was his misfortune that was single-handedly carrying a number of games.
Yep.
What was a disappointing World Championship for Rogue? Hans Summer really stood out as an individual, and it was on this champion. His ability to leverage the mobility, and Misfortune's just ability to have presence on the map, just because of her incredible movement speed and high-impact ultimate. Something we'll be keeping our eyes on as Hans Summer continues to have an incredibly strong game.
And Comp, his replacement for 2022, who has had a standout year. Probably the best bot lane in the league at the end of the year next to Trimby. Had a decent showing at Worlds as well. Didn't get past the quarters though. And now they're back looking for another title.
How crazy is it that Hans Summer's never won a European title?
That's pretty crazy.
He's been in a number of different finals. Often G2, the team that gets in his way.
Is it, oh wait, it's Hans Summer, Yike, and Shigenda are the three players in this game that have never won a European title.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. It's quite crazy, yeah. And I mean, this is one of the big things. Koi coming in as his replacement, Comp rather coming in as his replacement, but we're setting up for this fight.
Well, Mickey just hooked the wall there. I think he wants to engage though.
Shigenda just went into Mininar. TP coming in. There's a Nature's Grasp once again. Mao will be on the front line. He goes in. They step forward, but the bullet time hasn't even been used yet. Caps on the back line. Just assassinates Trimby. Now Comp is next up. You can cleanse all you want, but you can't cleanse death. The ultimate CC for Koi as they are forced away once again.
And Caps just does Caps things once more. He's been struggling in this game, but he makes a beeline for the backline as he's able to execute Trimby. He sets up the team to kill Comp. And G2 walk away with 3 kills, the Baron and the game.
Did he TP flank there? Solo kills Trimby, knocks Comp into the team. Sejuani was just alone on top of 4 members of G2. The cast from Broken Blade was beautiful, and this is G2's Comp. They can just run into you and start the engage. If the backline wants to help, they're in front of an MF ult, which wasn't even used.
And it's the power of Nature's Grasp as well, because it just separates the entirety of Koi. Marang's going forward, Larsen's down towards the bottom side with Shigenda, Comp and Trimby up towards the top side where Caps is TPing in. And we'll see they're just all split into different areas of this jungle.
Yeah, so Mickey hooked the wall there, but he wants to engage. TP's coming in from Caps on the ramp of entrance. This pullback onto the Sejuani with the Maokai ult behind it means that Koi's backline can't help. Then Caps just solo kills Trimby, knocks Comp into the rest of the team. Does insane work for G2 there, and we've got another fight here. Mickey's getting caught.
Very deep. TP coming out as well from Broken Blade as they look to join the fight. Nature's Grasp into the bullet time! Dodge that, Koi! G2 just cleaned them up in the jungle. Koi thought they found something, but all they find is an early grave as they are wiped away once again. Shigenda will fall. Caps is just tower diving 2 towers here. Broken Blade wants a piece of the party. Take notes, he says, as he forces Trimby and Marang away.
We may as well call it the Nature's bullet time at this point. The combos worked twice now for G2, and it just decimates Koi. No one can stand inside of it, and they can't work with any space here. G2 are just suffocating them out of every part of the jungle.
And now the Dragon spawning in 23 seconds as well. G2 have taken everything, and it all stems from how the game really exploded off the back of those small 2v2 mistakes happening in the bot lane. The fact that Hans Summer was able to get so accelerated in the presence that he was able then to bring to the rest of the map alongside Yike has just been devastation for Koi. They had good control over early, they very quickly lost it, and now it's just been G2's game ever since.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to get back here, Koi. I think it's as good as done. Their comp is just way too far ahead, and Koi don't have the tools. If they had some kind of dive threat onto the MF, maybe they could find a miracle. But what's their dive? It's a Gnar TP flank, a Sejuani ult hitting. Despite the amount of frontline that G2 have, they're kind of grasping at straws there. So G2 are just going to get the siege going. Make sure Broken Blade and Mickey are just in front of Hans so he can work with space. Make sure he can walk up. And we'll see what Koi can do on this last defense.
No TP flank for Shigenda. His teleport still on cooldown. Inhibitor tower falls in the bottom lane as Koi look for some last vestige of hope. Some last light at the end of the tunnel. It might just be a game 2 angle for them. As Comp puts the culling down, but Mickey can tank that for quite a while. Look for the hook there. Once again, the minion meets an early grave.
Maybe the Infinity Edge is what Koi's waiting for here. They don't want to pull the trigger just yet, but G2 definitely do.
There's the Nature's Grasp once again, looking for the inhibitor here. Tidal Wave used. Won't hit the bullet time. It was just wide. Larsen taken out in the midst of it all as Hans Summer gets another one on the board. And now Comp is up.
Over.
Mickey continues to land the hooks. Trimby forced to flash away. Hans Summer diving the inhibitor tower. And as you say, K-Drop, it's all done, but the Nexus falling, it's all over. But the final death knell here for Koi. 3 members strong, they can try and defend, but G2 attacking the towers and their minions will keep the backdoor bonus alive. Broken Blade forces Malrang away, the Nexus towers fall. Followed by the Nexus, G2 unwilling to end it yet, they want a little more time in the spotlight, time in the sun.
They're farming KDA.
They're farming KDA. You see Hans Summer with a smile on his face, and what a smile it should be. A dominant performance from Yamo. Aaron.
Yeah, your guys' Spanish is great.
Let's go back into the game. Koi selected blue side, and they will ban out the Draven. Caitlyn removed by G2. We wonder if that Maokai will be first picked by Koi, or whether they will look for something like the Ashe. Those are both options. There were 160 something of them in the game.
Are there 160 now?
165, I think. I think we're
No.
probably up there.
Imagine, you know,
Probably
every spell
up
of
there.
every champion.
I don't.
Wow.
I don't know. Maokai banned by Koi though.
Maokai banned by Koi, so just changing it up. Ashe still open, Elise still open. What direction will they go in? I saw the Koi players on stage laughing, having a bit of a giggle, taking a bit of a mick out of each other. So I think they're having a good time. They're not going to be too tilted from that last game. They're just mentally reset. But Ashe and Elise are the 2 champions I'm looking at now, and Sejuani too. I think if they're both
Ooh,
out.
Koi banned the Ashe.
Sus.
Okay. It is a little suspicious
What
that
are they
they would
setting
do
up
that on the
for?
blue side. They're definitely setting up for something.
I'm surprised that's not a Nautilus ban, you know, and then they just trade off. Like, give over Elise, perhaps play an Ashe lane, and then play Sejuani into it or something along those lines. But maybe they've got a different idea.
Well, they must do, because they banned away the Ashe instead of that Nautilus. So
I hate you, Medic.
the Sivir removed by G2. So we do have some of the power picks still available here.
They want Koi to pick Sejuani, I think.
Or Elise.
They have to pick Elise.
Yeah.
They can't give Elise over to G2
Do you
with
think,
Ashe being down.
I was going to say, do you think that Elise is just S tier?
Yeah,
do
I
you
think it's S tier if your team knows how to play around Elise very well. Like, if you're a good dive team, I think then Elise is just an example of such a powerful champ. Like
I
T1,
remember
for example.
seeing your rankings of the champs, and Elise wasn't S tier, I'm pretty sure.
Elise was in S tier. When like T1, for example, pulls off Elise dives really well, and they play double range spot with like Varus Kalista support, and then they just push you in, and there's not much really counterplay to it. So I'm a bit surprised they banned Ashe and took Elise, but we'll see how it pans out. Varus can be picked up here from G2. What is Koi's response? Do they want to play a Lucian lane again into a Varus this time?
Do you reckon they just lock in the Nautilus here, or do you think they get jungle?
They could go jungle and then play Nautilus on 3, because I think if you blind Nautilus here, maybe Koi could play a Brown
True,
lane, but
yeah,
I don't know
I
if
agree.
that's something they want to do with Elise. Jace is another one which you could just pick here and then pick support on 3, but yeah,
Oh, they're going to go for the
jungle
Sledge,
makes
okay.
sense.
Fair enough, yep.
It's the first time Yikes actually played Sejuani the split.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Interesting. That does surprise me a little bit. I thought that he would have at least one Sejuani.
At least according to the numbers I have in front of me.
Yeah.
He's played Lilia,
No, I mean,
Graves, Kindred, Belva.
Very diverse
Sejuani.
champion pool, of course. The Jace now being hovered for Larson, potentially. Often we see this AD, AP, mid-jungle, what's the word? Portfolio diversification. You want a mix of damage, basically. So it becomes slightly harder to itemize against. The question is, how do they round out here? Do they lock in their AD carry? Do they want to try and get themselves a support? Are they just going to try and leave? Are they actually going to lock in the second soul? I'd be surprised if they do. I feel like AD carry makes the most sense here, but then what do you pick into the Varus? Do you want to just go for the Lucian again? Because if you do, it's very likely that Nami's just going to get banned away. Exactly.
There's no point going Lucian on Nami here. Just go full top side. I think in drop bot lane makes the most sense.
Okay,
There's no
fair,
pairing you can go for. G2 could match here with Jax, I think, or just look for Nautilus here and then go 4-5. Olaf as well, some kind of top lane champ.
Yeah, something we saw a lot of from Broken Blade last week. He had a very impressive 1 versus 3 where he walked away alive, even got himself a kill. Very comfortable on the champion, and it makes a lot of sense, something that he often picks specifically into the Cassante. Now means that G2 can look to pinch the AD carry pool even more.
I wonder if Koi will go mid lane pinch, or whether they'll get rid of the Nautilus alongside a mid laner here, because you can reduce some of that pressure that the Varus would have in the lane if you get rid of Mickey's most played this split.
Getting rid of some support, okay.
I would be surprised if they don't take away a Kali.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
I feel like a Kali here for G2 with Sejuani would be really strong.
Yep,
I mean, the lane phase early will be a bit tough, but that would be a good pickup for them. And I think when you're in a situation like this, where you have 2 obvious roles you can ban out, it's always better to double ban one role than it is to split, unless there's some cases where it's better. So I think here they should just double ban mid. I was a little bit surprised they aren't banning Nautilus. I think that G2 likely gonna 5-pick support, of course. And if they do want to play a ranged bot matchup, then Nautilus is something they're going to run into. So with that being open, I think Koi might go for some kind of melee support bot lane here. Question is what? Either that or they're blinding Soraka.
Yeah, it could be something like a Zeri Soraka down towards the bottom side.
they
There
have
is
done
the
it.
Nautilus, so now Akali is open for G2 if they want to have Caps lay his hands on that.
Yeah, I think here it's either Nautilus Leona ban or Azir Akali, because I feel like you're trying to put both your hands in both different baskets here.
Right.
Because I feel like if they lock in Akali here and then counterpick your melee support bot with a Leona,
Yeah.
I think their comp
They
is
could
just
still, of course,
it's
do
just a
something like
G2
a
style.
Rakan if they want to as well. Like there are other options that they have at their disposal because they can save the counter pick for support till last.
What? Belveth?
Is it?
Wait.
It's Sejuani support, I think. Is it Sejuani support?
Sejuani support.
We'll wait for a bit, or is it
Okay.
Belveth mid? I don't know. We'll wait.
I like Belveth mid seems really foolish to me.
Let him cook.
I'll be honest.
Let him cook, boys. We haven't
There is the Lucian Nami.
Slow down.
I'm trying
Slow
to think
down.
if there's any other options.
Options here are Sejuani support,
Yeah.
and they're picking a mid laner.
Or Sejuani top.
Belveth
Or
mid,
Sejuani jungle.
and they're
left top,
picking a
yeah.
support, I think.
Pelveth mid. Quick, check Cap solo queue. Quick. Well,
No, let's see what they lock in
it's
here.
gotta be
I'm
something
going
in
to
there,
check
right?
it just in case.
Check the holy text. The truth will exist.
It's Belveth mid, I think.
Belveth mid into Jace.
Or it's Sejuani mid.
Or
Or
I mean,
it's-
you're literally
it's
going
Heimerdinger mid. Like,
Yeah, it's Belveth mid. Okay. Here we are.
Is there
okay, so there's no Belveth mid in Caps' solo queue. Ever.
no
Like,
Belveth mid.
The only person who I know was playing Belveth mid actually was LS. I was watching his stream and he was playing it on release. So I'm sure he knows a lot about how the matchup... And how, no, they've swapped it. Sejuani mid. They've baited us all. They've baited us all. It's going to be Sejuani mid. Wow, this makes me think of Doinby days when you're playing Nautilus and Malphite and...
It also reminds me of the Zac mid that Caps brought out earlier in the season and was playing at Worlds last year. You know, a tank mid laner that has some engage threat, that has some kill threat. Team it up with a carry jungler, you know, a Kindred or a Belveth. It can do some work. A little surprising. I'll put that one out there.
Okay, so I've done the research.
Yeah.
He's played 5 games of Sejuani mid. TP Ignite, Radiant Virtue, Fimbulwinter.
Well, he basically just plays jungle Sejuani, mid Sejuani.
He's gonna probably have TP Ignite, and he's probably gonna roam around, and he's gonna do cap stings as he always does.
Yeah.
What was his win rate there?
Don't look at the win rate. Let's just say he wasn't winning a lot. I mean, he was losing more often than winning.
Has he won a game? I can't remember.
He won a game.
He won
yeah,
two
nice,
games.
nice,
He won
nice,
2
nice,
games.
nice, nice.
No skin, Sejuani. There it is. Spellbook, TP, Ignite, Sejuani mid, Game 2, G2 versus Koi.
You know what they did manage to do?
What?
They got the melee mid-jungle duo.
Yeah, no, I'm... Now listen, gentlemen. I've got a Gordon Ramsay fanboy on my right. And I've got a guy who's re-rolled from a doctor to a caster. You can re-roll to a chef for a second. What do we think about the dish prepared? G2
Spicy.
have cooked up something pretty unique for us. You
I
know?
think seasoning is good.
Seasoning is good.
Presentation, not bad.
But how does it taste? That's my question.
I think we're
Because
gonna
I
find
see a Sejuani mid into a Jace, and I feel like it's a very neutralizing lane. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily win the lane, but it also doesn't like really lose it.
You
Because
have some sugar and you have some acid, and you're cooking with them. It kind of neutralizes those flavors.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. What are your thoughts here? Gordon Ramsay
Where
wannabe.
Han Samo was warding there because I thought Koi was going to make something cook. They're going to lead invade. That's what they're going to do. I was wondering what's going on here on this bot side of the map. They are trying to stop Malrang from 3 camping into bot and trying to threaten any kind of dives.
No, Marang's on the top
Caps,
side
did
of
he
the map.
start, I think he started W and he's just shoving in the wave. So he's ready to match. So Malrang has to give up. And now Broken Blade's here.
Alright,
They're
so,
just...
Right, Larson, you're going to catch the wave. Okay, Shigenda is going to deal with Broken Blade. Now, Broken Blade has the ghost, has used it already.
It's
Marang,
Yike, he's
the
going to run to the
camp was
towers.
reset.
He's going to run to the towers. He's going to get the wolf. He's going to get the wolf. He's going to get the wolf. It's so spicy. And he flashes out. What is this?
What?
This is
hate spiders, man. They're arachnophobes.
This is a set play from G2, you can see it. Sejuani flex, push in mid-level 1, late invade bot side, crossover with Olaf.
Maurang has smite and Yike does not, and there is a ward on this blue.
He needs to get this
You've
blue
gotta land this
or
smite.
it's over. He needs to get this blue or it's over, I can tell you that for a fact.
So Yike with 2, I think will probably take an E second, so he won't have a knock-up. He's gonna go forward. Maurang's trying to sneak in and smites it away.
Oh, he took E as well, trying to get the kill. He just Hex Flashed all the blue. Now he's mad. You've pissed him off now. Maurang, you took his wolf. You took his raptors. He's going to chase you into your jungle.
Yeah, how will he adapt here? What's he going to do? Let's just focus on Maurang.
He's going to Hex Flash over to the red. He's going to Hex Flash over to the
Gank top. He's got no flash top. He's got no flash. He's got no ghost. Remember Adam's Olaf? We might see a repeat of it in this game,
It's
guys.
first blood.
Broken Blade goes forward. Shigenda very
he's
willing
dead.
to accept him. He's dead. He's just going to sack to the tower. Make sure that Maurang doesn't get an assist here. Shigenda will take the kill.
Not bad, honestly.
Overall, first blood and a gold lead for Rogue.
Anything you can do, I can do better, Maurang says. He was born in the chaos of level 1 and level 2 jungling. Good response from Koi.
I will say Yike is 3 camps ahead.
Good response from Koi. First blood.
I can't help get the image of Whippo in my head right now, because do you remember at Worlds?
The Graves game where he was
Against
just
Hunter Life with Willer.
And they lost the game
And they lost the game. Yeah, it's one of those things where, okay, let's talk about the theory behind that. The idea is to put Maurang incredibly far behind, right? Broken Blade immediately invades.
Is he didn't do it. He did Gromp.
Yeah, and now
And
he's
now
back
he's
top
back
lane.
with Hex Flash. Is he going to Hex Flash into the
Observers,
alcove?
can we see what Broken Blade sees right now?
Oh, Broken Blade. Steps forward, steps back.
What? Is he like what? He can't go to his.
Oh,
he's
he got
getting level 3. He's scared of going to his own red because the enemy team has bot push and maybe he thinks Yike is
and
there.
pings have come down. Look, you can see on the minimap, they're not entirely sure where the Belveth is, so he said that there's a real risk that he could be on the bot Scuttle Crab as well. G2 bot lane have to be a little bit cautious. Mickey doesn't have a ward available. But wow, okay, what a crazy early game. As Medic summarized for us, Koi do have the early game gold lead. Larson has no mana. Caps, well, he's not really going to do anything off the back of it because he's Sejuani.
He's got no
so
flash.
He's
But Yike
Or
is
is
here.
he?
He's going forward. Yike looking for it. There's the stun. Locked up. Cocoon comes out as well. But Caps on the board. Equalizes that kill score. And now Yike can try and chase Maurang through this jungle.
very creative use of the blast cone there from Yike. Completely caught Larson off guard as he was trying to chip away at Caps underneath the tower. The goal there from Larson was just to deny Caps as much farm as possible, maybe even threaten a kill. And then Yike is able to punish, and we got to see that the double melee mid-jungle duo, except the Sejuani was the one in the mid lane setting up the play.
I feel like it was a bit of a blunder from Larson, though, because he was out of mana and the wave was crashed. There was no real need for him to get those extra few autos in. He probably called Maurang to cover. Maurang was looking, but then once the wave crashed, Maurang ran away, so a bit of miscommunication, I feel, from Koi, but good execution from G2. Larson didn't even use the flash. He knew he was dead. Maurang will get away with getting his red buff and such. A bit scared of the invade from Yike.
And Mickey and Hansama just continued getting the push down towards this bottom side. We did see Ashe as an answer into the Heimerdinger because you can outrange her his turrets. But once again, Hansama has been able to get back to base and get back into the lane because Mickey held the wave with his turrets. And now he has a tier stacking up and is in a very strong position. But back to the jungle, guys.
Yeah, Maurang has 12 CS.
Now, 14 now.
That's his 4th camp.
Okay, so you can leave the little ones if you don't care about the gold and just care about the XP, because
So what's his
they'll
plan?
die after 10 seconds. He's going up towards top lane. Broken Blade has Ghost, no flash. Might look for a mid gank, but instead works his way up. Scuttles up towards this top lane. Yike is here too, though. Yike is here too, looking for some death in lavender.
Maurang wait straight from bottom to top.
Here he goes. There's the Ghost. Broken Blade, no flash. Maurang locked up, though, and Yike once again in the right place. Gobbles him down. A delicious banquet for the Belveth as Broken Blade takes the kill.
Nice setup there from G2 again. Yike knowing that Broken Blade wants to crash the wave. Maurang trying to punish. Use the repel to commit.
Caps
Of
is
course
bot.
he's bot. Of course he's bot.
That Glacial Prism onto Trimby doesn't quite land the CC. Caps tanking the tower. Trimby, though, sniped from long range as Hansama takes him, and now Koi. Comp is in for a world of hurt. A double for Hansama, and it's falling apart at the seams for Koi.
They're ganking top, they're ganking bot. It's 6 minutes into the game. Yike will catch mid wave as a carry jungler with a tank mid. He's more than happy for that. to happen. G2 just showing creativity around the map.
We had a minute where the game slowed down, and I thought, oh, G2 have ran out of plays. Never mind, immediately we saw the roam down a bot, the gank up top, Caps being unlocked on the map. Doing it on Sejuani, though, is not what I expected. And, you know, you summarized it beautifully. It's like the Doinby days, right? Where you would just sacrifice a wave to then look for an opportunity. You can see that there's no way for him to catch in mid. He's able to set up the dive on bot. He has that level 6 play. He initially tanks the tower, then Mickey takes the aggro, and it's a very clean dive from G2.
Look where his jungler is. His jungler just ganked top and is farming his camps, and then his mid laner saying, I'm diving bot, take mid wave. That is the most beautiful thing a jungler can hear in his ears ever, especially when it works. I feel like Caps is just the heart of G2 in these games. All throughout the last few years, playing these crazy mid laners. And yes, he has his funny int moments, but whether it's the Pyke, whether it's the Nivea, whether it's the Sejuani, the Zac, he always just pulls something off to make the game feel different.
Even in the good old days, Dylan, we have to go Vayne. Like, he has been this player since he joined the league, and I don't really blame Koi for getting caught out by the Sejuani roam, because it has been 10 years since we last saw a mid-Sejuani in major regions. Many reasons for Zenix Blast. Played it in 2013 summer, so 9.5 years technically.
Was that in Champions? Yeah, Champions 2013. Wow.
Wow.
What a time to be alive.
10 years ago.
Born too late to, you know, be a medieval knight. Born too early to explore space and time. Born just in time to experience Caps.
On Sejuani mid.
On Sejuani mid.
I mean, just Caps in general, I think, is
Caps in general.
something nice. As Shigenda here, caught out a little bit. We'll use the flash to get away. And Yike prioritizing the Rift Herald here makes sense on the Belveth. You want that upgraded form. Get your Void Coral out. Get your little helper Remora. And also get some stacks on your passive. That Death in Lavender up to 16 already. Yike will want to get that, you know, 80, 90 before he really starts to shred through opposition.
Caps is going to dive bot by the looks of it. He's running down, but he'll get spotted by Malrang and back away. But I feel like when his jungler's on one side, most mid laners lean to that side. No, Caps goes the other way. Looks for plays on the opposite side, and normally in pro play, hang on, Mickey.
Trimby caught out here, rooted up. Chain of Corruption did hit, and Trimby just doesn't have a moment to breathe, doesn't have a moment to live. As he is taken out once again. This Nami so susceptible to the combination of Heimerdinger and Varus. Larsen next up, and he will burn his flash to escape the waiting jaws of Yike.
As from experience, this is one of those games where you look at the enemy team and you say, are we playing the game wrong? Like, is our understanding of how the game should be played just fundamentally wrong, and the way they're playing is correct? Because the pace that G2 are playing at, Koi can't keep up.
Mowing has to flash away from Yike as he continues this chase.
Did he just steal his reds?
Well, he's got a red, and
but yeah, I wasn't entirely sure if he was.
So,
oh no,
it's about to spawn.
It's respawning now. Yeah, my apologies. But yeah, wow is all I can say. It's you gave the example earlier, Kadril, but for those that weren't around watching Professional League in 2019, the 3 favorites of that year's World Championship were G2, SKT, and FPX. And coming out of the group stages and even the quarterfinals, G2 and SKT were looking incredibly strong, and a lot of talk was around one of those 2 teams winning the whole thing, right? And FPX on the other side, they kind of had a hard-fought road. They went all the way 5 games in up against IG in the semifinals. Then in the finals, the 3-0 against G2 that many of us like to try and forget. But it was this type of playstyle where they would bring out these crazy mid laners, where Doinby in particular would consistently just sacrifice waves in mid to look for roams around the map. And it was back then G2 would try and match with the Pyke mid, the very famous Pyke mid that they picked in the first rotation of that World Finals to try and match Doinby and try and counter some of those roams. But his ability to do that was something that was unrivaled, and very few teams can actually emulate that style, even though many did try. This is probably the first time in a long time that we've seen a very similar style work to great success in the early game.
Here they go again.
Trimby locked up, all 4 members of G2 down here, and Trimby has nowhere to go once again. Just assassinating, 1 more auto's enough. Yike steals his soul, Comp clears the wave. But now, can Comp survive?
And look at the mini-map. Comp's dead. He's as good as dead. And Broken Blade's catching midwave. Actually, TP coming in. Maybe they're going to protect.
Just locked up by himself. They're trying to protect.
They're double TPing.
Double TP. Chain of Corruption coming in. Larsen low already. He's eaten again. It's a double for Yike. They're looking for more. Shigenda goes all out to try and defend for Comp. Now once again underneath the tower. Now there is a long wait for the next minion wave. But instead they put the Herald down to tank the tower. Comp is going to try and kill himself on the enemy turret in-game to make sure that Summer and Caps can't get any gold out of it, but he can't get there quickly enough. Summer's on absolute killing spree. And G2 are demolishing Koi.
They're acing them between towers at 11 minutes into the game. Only Shigenda lives. That was double TP invested to save comp, and they even gave up more kills than they initially intended to. Broken Blade caught midwave the entire time. They've lost nothing on the map for this play.
I can't believe what I just saw. It's such a great demonstration of when you're strong, showing what you can do.
Yep.
Like, the gap between G2 and Koi right now is so massive, and G2 is showing it to them. Trimby is just trying to get back to lane, and like, what does Larson even do in this situation? Like, he can't match this roam with Caps. They can't beat them in the 4 versus 4. So at this point, Comp just has to try and survive. Malrang's doing what he can. He oversteps only slightly to then be punished by Yike and Mickey. He's only level 6 to the level 8 of Yike, and the double TP comes in, but Larson has no HP. I think that's because Broken Blade in mid lane actually chipped him down in the middle of his TP. And what flawless execution from G2. What else is there to say?
What else is there to say? Well, G2, we'll see what play they look for next. Caps and Yike teaming up. Larson can't even enter his own jungle. Larson, don't do it. Don't
You
go
walk
that
away
way.
from the safety of your tower and immediately you're locked up. A beautiful death for Larson as Yike gets his 4th of the game. Yet to die means he keeps it. Remora stacks up as well. And it is almost an 8,000 gold lead, guys. Well, 7,000 gold lead for G2 right now at 13 minutes into this game.
And you can see G2 just sacrificing all these waves on Caps to give them to Yike, or just sacrificing the time to get hands ahead. And you can see that in the gold, you know. Caps is basically even with Larson, but the jungle and AD gap is massive in terms of gold. Broken Blade might be in trouble. Koi looking for their first kill. I've seen Broken Blade do crazier things.
Yep. Uses the Ragnarok, dodges the all-out, now turns his attention over to Trimby. Trying to get those autos down, but just can't do it. Koi get their second kill. Meanwhile, Hansama and Mickey very happily taking turret plates in the mid lane. They took 5 bot, 4 mid. I want to see how many they took top as well. Is that all of them?
Is that going to be 14?
Will they get it? Couple more autos. 14 plates for G2.
Wow, 14 out of 15 secured. 1 short of the achievement. But it doesn't matter. Dragon spawning in a minute's time as well. And it's hard to not feel like that this game is done and dusted, you know? Like, this is a game where if this was a scrim, you FF go next.
Yep.
This would never happen in a real game. What valuable practice is this? That's the frustrating thing when playing against G2.
But it's okay. Malrang has his boots and Oblivion Orb.
He does.
So they're back in the game right now. Koi got this. It's going to reduce that healing so much.
Was he running around with boots and Oblivion Orb? What a legend. Just looking for these psycho plays with these items.
I mean, you've got to, right?
You've got to find something.
Like, you're looking for maybe a shutdown onto Yike to get some gold into your back pocket.
So, you know how you were asking us about the dish at the start of the game?
Yeah, I was,
You know, like what it would look like, what it would taste like.
Yeah.
Looks like a 3-star Michelin.
Wow.
I might say.
You would rate it that highly?
Well, if they close it out at this rate, it looks pretty damn good.
Shigenda able to dodge to the side there, use the Unstoppable as well to get away from the stun from the grenade. I was wondering when we saw the draft whether it would be, you know, actually spicy or German spicy, you know, Schaff, but actually just pepper. Right now it's looking like a few chilies in there, you know, a couple of jalapenos, a Carolina Reaper, and at the moment the Reaper's only coming for Koi as Mickey caught out just a little bit, but he's going to try and turn this one over to Comp and Trimby. Yike steals away another camp and continues to stack up on that Belveth.
Drake spawning, they're just going to pick that one up. G2 waiting for the explosive team fight to start breaking the base, but it's still 15 minutes into the game. They've still got a second Herald in their back pocket. We'll see how far they want to push the advantage. Knowing G2, they probably want to break a record somehow, so they might overextend. Koi just need to try to stay composed. The whole map's falling apart. Try to group up, try to stay composed, try to punish overextensions like that from Mickey there. They're not going to commit, though. Why don't they commit?
Down. Well, they're trying to commit, but you can't get through the turrets, and they don't know where Yike is. He can dash across that wall, remember. Cap's coming in as well. They can't even kill off Mickey. Good use of the turrets to tank up a couple of those shots from the culling. Yike now coming down towards this bottom side. Void Remora is going to help them out just a little bit as they chip away at this tower. But it was on Belveth that G2 had that 18-minute, 53-second game earlier in the split. I believe one of our fastest games ever in the LEC. Here, they're not going to fully push in the bot lane. The Rifthold is going to come up for them in a little bit.
The Herald.
Yeah. Maybe they could have used it. But TP actually from Caps, they look to catch out Larson up towards this top lane. Larson trying to get something on the map. The first tower of the game perhaps, and should be able to secure it with one more auto attack. He'll take it, gets the bounty, but a little consolation prize it is for him. More of a participation trophy than anything measurable as Yike gets his 5th kill.
I can see it already. G2's going to end top. I can see the positions on the map. They're going to try for it.
You want a couple of waves to build up the extra Remora for the Belveth, so if he stays up there and catches these...
I can see Broken Blade not going to catch bot wave. Hans is running to Shadow top. They have Herald.
I don't think it was in range for a few of these minions, so not ideal if they want to end from this, but they might just look for comp instead. Glacial Prism, Caps going forward by himself, Marang with a good repel there to dodge away from the Sejuani ult.
Yeah, okay, they're not going to have a big enough wave up there. If they got a couple kills, it's something they could look for, but there's the Herald. So here comes the push. If Koi can withstand this,
Caps is tanking the tower. Like, he could have just backed away at any point there.
Yeah, they can withstand this pretty easily. G2 aren't going to go for any crazy shenanigans. They're going to back away, pay some respects, and I think the Nash is what they've probably got their eyes on now. Koi still not able to find a pick.
What do you do in game 3? Like, do you bans?
God,
like,
I don't. Fortunately, that's not my job. I just get to sit back and watch what will be game 3. But you know, we did jokingly we did jokingly say that every time these two teams meet, it is a 3-0. And
it's looking like
game 2, G2 just came in incredibly well prepared. You talked about it, Cajal. It felt like a set play. The level 1, I don't think was that overwhelmingly impressive. But the follow-ups as a result of that were just great to see. The fact that Caps was able to find so many great roams, specifically towards the bot side of the map, the fact that Yike was able to limit what Malrang could actually do in the early game. We saw Malrang go from Raptors straight into a top gank. Yep. And at first I thought that he was there to cover for a potential dive, but it seemed like his game plan was let's catch Broken Blade off guard in that wave and let's create a gank, with which Yike was just there primed and ready to cover for. So G2 have just found every answer to shut down Koi, and while I think Malrang has done what he could, it's now a 10k gold difference between the two teams.
I remember there was a brief scrim meta when Sejuani mid was meta in 2020 when Xin Zhao jungle was viable.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And you would play like Xin Zhao, Sejuani jungle mid, and this would be your kill threat into sides.